Steve, now before the break, don't have it yet, all right? Ryan, I'll go to that audio in a minute. You can fade it down. Before the break, I asked you if you wanted a cup of tea. You said Yorkshire tea. I've got a stash of Yorkshire tea bags. In 15 years of being here, I've never, ever made a guest a cup of tea. But I thought, it's you. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm going to make you one. I pride myself on making possibly the best tea ever. Have a little taste. Tell me what you think, all right? It's a good colour as well. Here we go. Huh?
It's the shortage of milk in the fridge.
Just be careful, pal.
No, I'm only asking.
Right?
I'm only asking. It's a perfect cup of tea,
right?
But just needs a little more milk.
Okay.
But you're almost there.
All right.
Another 15 years' time, I reckon.
Will you come back?
Listen, thank you very much for the tea.
What do you make of the gap that I've left between the top of the tea and the top of the mug? Because I like it like that. Well, if people fill it to the top, it's too much for me.
Well, that's only a half cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll make it another half.
But if you put milk in it, it probably would have reached it. It would have been better, yeah.
Carry on like that. Usain Bolt never, mate. Moaned when listen, we've got loads to talk to you about, right? We've talked about your career, and we're going to sort of go between boxing now and back to your career, if that's okay. Because I know the world of boxing now. You alluded to it earlier on. You're not sort of on top of it. You don't watch. Do you watch a lot of boxing now? Or?
I would watch certain fights. You know, I follow my brother's fighters. My brother's got a professional gym in Dublin, Celtic Warrior Gym, and most of his fighters fight in America, which is nice to go over there. But they're starting to get more, matches in the UK. So I kind of follow his fighters because I know them personally, and it's obviously my brother. Other than the big fights, I haven't got the time. I'm busy doing my own things, you know.
Okay, let me play a piece of audio and then we'll speak to you about it. Earlier on today's show, we were joined by the head of Queensberry Promotions, Frank Warren, following the announcement that Tyson Fury will fight UFC star Francis Ngannou. Frank said that this is the only fight they could make.
I want Tyson in with the best he can fight, but unfortunately, they're not available. So what's he got to do? Sit on his backside, and we're told we got to wait we basically got to wait to be determined when Skill Set Challenge can put a fight on in 2024 involving. Forget that. We're not sitting around on our back. If this doesn't happen, Tyson has got to fight, and he's got to fight now. This is a crossover event. This is a big event, and don't tell me people won't buy it. Of course there'll be people, and what it is for us is a game changer.
What do you make of where boxing is at the moment with regards to these crossovers? So we've seen it with McGregor and Mayweather. We've seen lots of YouTubers now get involved with boxing. We're seeing it again with the heavyweight champion of the world in Tyson Fury. What do you make of where boxing is at the moment?
I absolutely understand it's a great money earner. It's going to get a lot of publicity because the MMA is huge, and obviously Tyson Fury is huge. To me, if it's an MMA guy fighting in boxing, he's not a boxer, he's MMA. And, I would probably beat most MMA guys in boxing because they're not boxers. So it should be an easy fight for Tyson Fury. Now, if Tyson Fury turned around and said, no, I'm going to fight this guy in MMA, I go, bloody hell. That is brave and that's daring and that's something he shouldn't do. So he's going to take on a guy who's not a boxer. No disrespect, I'm a fan of both guys, different sports. And so it's a good earner, great earner. It's not really boxing, it's good entertainment. And it's, for Frank Warren, great for him because he's a businessman and it makes business because we're all going to tune in. I know my son's generation, they love all this kind of stuff. They'll tune in, but it's not pure boxing.
Steve, when we hear Frank and we hear Eddie Hearn and we hear all the promoters nowadays, we hear them a lot and they're bigging up fights and they're bigging up events for their clients. You mentioned earlier about you wanted Roy Jones, you went after him, you couldn't get it done. When you hear about fights that they can't get them over the line, are these guys totally dictating everything nowadays, or do you still believe that the fighters themselves can actually say, listen, you get out there and you go and get me this fight and don't come back in here and into this gym until you do? Is that a bit too old school, all that?
Well, yes and no. Probably the problem for Tyson Fury is he's a very good heavyweight and he's taken on the best and beaten the best, and there's just not enough challenge out there for him. So he's sitting around, the clock is ticking, he's not doing anything, so why not do this? It's entertainment, it's a fight of sorts, it's a big earner for him. He's absolutely right to take it. It's not really, genuine, pure core boxing, but that's not Tyson Fury's fault. There's no one there for him to fight. Really, who's there for him to fight?
Well, he can't because the other ones. But there was a moment when we thought the Usyk fight was going to happen. There was a moment when we thought Joshua was going to happen.
Why is that happening? I don't know why that's not happening. I can't. I can guess. Why is that not happening?
But what I'm saying is, in your day, you would have turned around and said, for whatever the reason is, we've got to make these fights work. They've got to get over the line.
I went on record and I said it to Roy Jones. I said, Roy, let's fight winner take all. Whatever you want, wherever you want, however you want to do it. This fight to me is worth more than the money. I want this fight to prove something, and let's go winner take all. So, and I was sincere about that. So that's how I would approach it. I just, I've kind of lost a bit of interest in the game right now because, back in the day, big names made great fights. It's kind of.
Do you think there's too much money involved in boxing now? Do you think that money dictates the fight rather than the fighters?
There is a lot of money involved in boxing now. There always was a lot of money, but there seems to be a lot more money available now, and that's down to the communications and the YouTube and all the different medias we have out there. Everyone wants a piece of it, and they're all going to pay to get it. So a lot of money in there, which is great, is fine. But with all this money, how come there's not so many guys? Why is there not like guys banging on the door, knocking people out, and shouting, and calling out Tyson Fury to fight him? There's no big challenges out there for him. We're kind of looking for a challenge.
It was announced recently that AJ's going to have his next fight against Dillian Whyte. AJ's last few performances haven't been that great. If you were looking after him or you sat down in a room with him, what advice would you give him?
No, you're bringing a smile to my face because I think AJ has a talent that has not been tapped into yet. And, sometimes people can do their best and be in their corner and do everything they can for you, but people are limited. People say to me, my secret to my success was my education, and I beat guys with more talent, better fighters than me because I knew more. I spent many years in Brockton, Massachusetts, in a gym with the Petronellis. The guy punching the back beside me was world champion called Marvin Hagler. That's the company I was in Brockton, Massachusetts. It was a tough, poor city, but I got an education there, and guys would walk into the gym who were really good fighters, and you'd have to hold your own with them. I got the education with the Petronellis. After the Petronellis, I spent time with Floyd Patterson in upstate New York. Floyd Patterson, former heavyweight champion of the world, no bigger than me. He was a middleweight, he was a heavyweight champion. And I learned from him. He showed me things. And I took that away with me. Then I ended up with Bernard Checa, South American, trained many world champions. He taught me so much about inside fighting. And then I moved down to London, but one of the greatest coaches who's not known was a guy called Freddie King, from Essex-based trainer, okay, who had 4 world champions at one time. And I learned so much from Freddie King. It was unbelievable what I learned from him. And I had all this knowledge. And then I brought it back to America and teamed up with my friend of mine who I actually boxed with, a guy called Freddie Roach, who was a genius. And Freddie brought all this together and combined all this knowledge I was just a complete fighter by then. And so I look at guys like AJ. He's got people giving him 100%. They can only give him what they know. There's so much more out there he can learn. But I think his mindset is his biggest issue. If he, in the right state of mind, he has so much talent. He could be such a better fighter. And I think he's got the ability, if someone gets into him and works him right, to be a true contender and probably heavyweight champion of the world again.
But surely Eddie would know that. Eddie would know that and see that, and he will have heard what you've said from other people, Steve. So what prevents him from getting those people
I don't know whether he would know or not. He's a promoter. I don't know whether he would know or not. I mean, I've lived it. I've tasted it. I've experienced it. I've grown up with it. I've got a deeper insight than most people have, and I was very open-minded. That's how I picked up on a lot of things. I would love, I'm not looking for this job, I actually haven't got time for it, but I would love to get into AJ's head.
If he called you up and said, come on board, would you do it?
I would jump all over, but he'd have to make a major change. I'd strip him down and I'd get back to his raw talent. I know what his strengths are and I know what his weaknesses are, and I would work on it, improve his strengths, and I would get rid of his weaknesses. I'd strip him down and I'd rebuild him and I'd put him in there. He's got everything. He ticks all the boxes. And as an individual, there's such a nice side to him, which we're not seeing right now, because really, I met him when he was younger, and I was really impressed with his persona, and I think there's so much in there that needs to be drawn out.
And is that only AJ that can do that, or is it others around him that are preventing him from, you say, getting to hear this advice and getting him to...
People around him really want him to succeed, and they want to succeed, but, where are they coming from? You know what I mean? You can be 100% dedicated, but it's all about education.
The guys you learn from have been in there taking the punches.
Little things Floyd Patterson showed me something and told me something, and I walked out and I went, oh my God, I never would have guessed that. And then when he told me, I brought it into play. Then when I used to watch Mike Tyson, Customado was, looked after him. My next fight was against a guy who just gone the distance with Matthew Hilton, who was a world champion, middleweight champion in Canada. He beat him, got a draw. Next fight against me, I knocked him out. I put him down 5 times. The reason was because I learned something in New Paltz, upstate New York, from Floyd Patterson that I brought into that fight, and I destroyed him. Because of something I learned, which I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been there. So it became something new to my arsenal. And then what brought it all together then was when I worked with this hypnotist, the sports psychologist, Tony Quinn. I had this, I knew there was something else out there, but here's an educated man in that department who explained to me what it was, so I could ask him questions and bring it into play. The whole psychological end of it, which is the psychology of preparing, ambition, pushing yourself beyond the limits to achieve and do things correctly. And it's just, it sounds simple, but it's very good. It is simple, but all that. So I have all this knowledge. And sometimes I see people and I go, God, I wouldn't mind getting a hold of him for a while. He's got so much there he's not aware of. AJ is one of these guys.
With your knowledge, it sounds from a boxing fan like it's a travesty that you're not still involved in boxing at that level. Have you had any fighters come to you and ask for?
I started coaching guys when I retired, and I'm in the gym and a guy rings up and he's 3 o'clock, he's supposed to train. I can't make it, I'll be there at 5, Reverend, it's fine. And then afterwards it began to happen. Then I'd be saying things to him and he wouldn't listen to me. And I went, I couldn't be arsed doing this. This is I'm not enjoying this. They're not appreciating what I'm telling them. Do you know what? I'm going to do what I love doing. I'm going to go back and do my own thing and forget the boxing. And that's why I walked away from it. But, I do talk to fighters. When I go to my brother's gym, I do talk to fighters and give little tips in the gym. And they listen to me, they believe me. And then when I say to them, I'm telling you this because it's true, and try it out, and if it works, then, I'm telling you the truth. And they come back and say, I understand what you're saying. No, that really worked. Thank you for that. And I see a little improvement and I feel really good about it. But if I take on a fighter, I'm dedicated 100%. So I don't want to be dedicated. I've done that for 25 years in boxing, but every once in a while I do see things and I go, God, I'd love to get a hold of him. Yeah. And just let him know. Well,
listen, we're so pleased we've got a hold of you. I know that you don't do radio or TV much anymore, and you keep yourself to yourself. We were so excited today when we knew you were coming in, and the last 45 minutes have just been breathtaking.
Brilliant.
To listen to. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming in. I've got one last question for you.
Best cup of tea I've had in a long time, by the way. Thank you very much.
See, you're flirting with me.
I will come back for more.
Okay, that's a definite. Before I let you go, one last question. As you walked into Alpha's, you would have seen the punching machine outside?
Yeah.
Did anyone ask you to ever go on it?
Yeah.
Did you ever go?
No.
Okay.
Because I looked at the readings that was on it, and I know I can beat them all, but I don't want to.
Quite right.
Steve.
Give them that day. Let them.
Joe Joyce is top of that list, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. If I promise to make you another cup of tea, will you ever go?
Let me tell you, Joe Joyce is a powerful man.
Yeah.
It's the speed of the bullet that does the damage.
Okay. Can we see, this is going to sound wrong, can we see the speed of your bullet outside? Will you have one go? You don't have to. I'm not going to put you under pressure, but I'd like...
Next time I come in, I'll do it.
Okay, that's good. No, I'm not going to push you. Are you scared? I'm only joking.
I actually am scared, yeah.
I'm joking.
Because if I end up bottom of the list...
You won't be. I've had a go at it. Trust me.
I won't be brought back.
Trust me. You will be, and you won't be bottom of the list. An honour. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming in.
Andy Townsend, it's an honour to finally get to speak to you.
Thank you. Last time I saw Steve was at a U2 concert backstage. Yeah. How about that? Do you remember that?
I see why you went backstage.
I'm not finished what I was saying. I was about to speak to you sober. Okay. Because we always seem to meet at these functions where there's free beer and we avail of it, But
yeah.
It was you were involved in the greatest era of Irish football, and it was at my era. It was at the peak of my career too. I travelled to see us play in New York, and I loved it. And it was a great time. And Jack Charlton, to me, I looked at Jack Charlton and I said, I want to be the Irish version of Jack Charlton in the UK, because Jack Charlton was a proud, established Englishman who achieved greatness and came over, and we loved him, and he was an Englishman that we loved. And I said, I'm going to come to the United Kingdom and I'm going to be the Irishman, the boxer, and I want them to love me for what I do. And I've always tried to be him in
Brilliant.
the UK. And
I
I
certainly
feel like I've
Yeah.
done it, you know.
You certainly
You
have.
certainly have, pal.
Listen, my usual wingman is Darren Bennett. He's away at the moment, so Andy's, of course, covering. So the next time Andy's in, whenever that will be, in like a week or 2 weeks or a month, or can we get you back in as well for another chat?
To be quite honest, I wasn't really interested in coming in, but because Andy was here,
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
But now I've got you making tea and Andy, so between the two of you.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
No, my
Real
pleasure.
And
Thank
AJ,
you.
if you're listening, get in contact with Steve Collins is my advice.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.